They left for the big family trip for cars, 17 people, one group chat without me. I woke up to an empty house. When I called, Mom said, "We thought you were in the van with your cousins." I said nothing. 2 hours later, my sister accidentally sent me a screenshot meant for her friend. "He's really not here. OMG, our plan worked." I just replied, "Merry Christmas." Then I quietly canceled the $12,500 booking. And then came step 2. At 8:03 a.m., I had 101 missed calls. One just said emergency. It must feel good not being included. My uncle had said last Christmas, half laughing, half serious, after I'd offered to pay for the family dinner, "Makes things easier when people forget you." I thought it was a joke. I laughed too, but now I know it wasn't. This year, I woke up in a silent house on December 23rd. The silence was the first thing that hit me. It wasn't the usual holiday quiet. It was a vast, heavy void, a quiet so thick it felt like cotton wool had been stuffed into every air vent. The sun, a weak winter disk, threw long, accusing shadows across the polished hardwood. There was no rattling of car keys, no slammed trunk, no hurried whisper of, "Did you remember the cooler?" I checked the time on my phone. 7:45 a.m., too late for a clean getaway. Too early for a casual lie-in. My usual Christmas routine involved my mother banging on my door at 6:30 a.m., handing me a lukewarm coffee, and demanding I start loading the van. This year, nothing. Just a quiet so thick it felt like insulation. The living room was spotless except for a stray charging cable and 2 pine needles near the door, relics from some pre-departure flurry I hadn't been a part of. My suitcase was still in the hallway, unopened from the last work trip, a monument to my naive assumption that I would be included in the packing chaos. My toothbrush was dry, my wallet untouched. I thought maybe I was dreaming, or maybe they were running late. Maybe they were outside, waiting for me to join the second wave. The hope was pathetic, a tiny flickering match in a vast dark room. I walked to the window. The driveway was empty, not just empty of the usual family caravan, but eerily empty. The 4 designated family vehicles, Dad's SUV, Aunt Brenda's minivan, Cousin Will's beat-up truck, and Chloe's compact car, all gone. So I called. Mom picked up on the second ring, a peculiar sound of forced casualness in her voice, like she'd been practicing. I said, "Hey, where is everyone?" There was a pause, the kind that swells like water behind a dam, forcing the listener to fill the void with their own mounting dread. The sound of a distant truck horn, clearly not from our suburban street, bled through the phone line. She said, her voice strained, "We thought you were in the van with your cousins." I could hear the quick, shallow intake of her breath, the telltale sign of a lie being spun midair. "I swear, I thought Jake told me you were in car 2. Maybe there was a mix-up." Just like that, 17 people, 4 cars, one giant family trip, and no one had noticed I wasn't there. Not a single call, not a check-in, not even a seat save. Her flimsy excuse felt like a slap. You thought? They had planned every minute detail of this trip, down to which cousin sat, where there was no mix-up. There was an omission, a purposeful, coordinated exclusion. I said nothing. The silence on my end was louder than any scream. It was the sound of a switch being thrown. Then I hung up. I didn't yell. I didn't ask why I wasn't on the group chat, why I was left out of the planning, why I'd helped pay for that expensive Airbnb in the mountains. Yes, $12,500 on my credit card and still wasn't counted. The money wasn't a gift. It was a silent admission fee I was expected to pay for the privilege of seeing them. That, I now understood, was the true cost of my inclusion. 2 hours later, my phone lit up. The notification was a screenshot from my sister Chloe. I could tell it was meant for someone else, probably her friend Ruby. It showed the family group chat, 17 names, a pinned message about the itinerary. Underneath, her text read, "He's really not here. OMG, our plan worked." The simple, joyful cruelty of those 5 words, "Our plan worked," was the final confirmation. My mother's stammering excuse had been a performance. This was the script. I just stared at it. The betrayal wasn't a sudden punch. It was a cold, calculated hit, and the attacker was smiling afterward. I didn't write back right away. I didn't call her. The rage was internal, an engine of cold, precise energy. I sat down at the kitchen table, opened my laptop, logged into the Airbnb account, and quietly hit cancel. The refund processed in seconds. The screen blinked with a confirmation message. Full refund initiated. The money would return to my card within 3 to 5 business days. The massive, beautiful cabin they were standing outside of in the cold, crisp mountain air was now unbooked. They were stranded. Their perfect Christmas rebrand was over before it began. Then I sent one message back, "Merry Christmas." No punctuation, no emojis, no rage. Just a line they'd remember. 30 minutes later, my phone started buzzing. 42 missed calls, then 70. The screen was a strobe light of escalating panic. Missed calls from Dad, Mom, Aunt Brenda, Cousin Will, Chloe, even Jake. Then one message that just said, "Emergency." I turned my phone off because now it was time for step 2. The first call I answered was from Dad. His voice was raw, like he'd been screaming already. "What did you do? You canceled the whole house?" His demand was immediate, entitled, and utterly lacking in self-awareness. It wasn't, "Are you okay?" or "I'm sorry we forgot you." It was straight to the financial damage. "No," I said calmly, the calmness a deliberate, chilling choice. "I canceled my booking. It just happened to be the entire booking because it was on my card." "You think this is a joke?" he growled, the patriarch attempting to reassert control. "There are 17 people standing outside a cabin in the snow. You think I'm a joke?" I said and hung up. I turned my phone back on an hour later. By then, the panic had become orchestral. Missed calls from my mother, Aunt Brenda, Cousin Will, Chloe again, even her boyfriend Jake, who had apparently become family faster than I could even get a group invite. I didn't respond. I just watched the call log fill up, because for the first time in years, I wasn't scrambling to fix what they broke. Backstory they didn't expect me to tell. For 3 years straight, I paid for every holiday rental. The understanding was always, "We'll send you our share later." A check that, of course, never came. Every birthday gift for cousins. On me. Every time Chloe's car broke down, guess who she called? Not because I was her brother, but because I was the default, the emotional and financial safety net. Mom once told me, with a hand squeeze that felt more like a shackle, "You're the responsible one. That's why we lean on you." No, I was the quiet one. That's why they thought I wouldn't fight back. They used me like a credit card that never expired. Fake apologies and real lies. My role was simple. Silent partner. I paid, they played. By Christmas Eve, they were desperate. Mom texted, "We didn't mean to exclude you. There was just a lot going on with Chloe's kids and Jake's visa. Please, let's not ruin Christmas." I didn't answer. Chloe posted on Instagram from a roadside diner near the mountains. Black coffee, messy hair, and a caption, "Family means not always agreeing, but always forgiving." The audacity was staggering. She was staging her victimhood for public consumption. I laughed. The comments were all sympathy. "Stay strong, babe. Hope things calm down soon." And then I saw it. A story from her private account, one I wasn't supposed to follow anymore. Screenshot of our family group chat minus Miss me caption, he's finally out. Can't believe it took this long. Below it, a photo of the Airbnb refund email, the one I received. They planned it, knew I'd fund the trip, knew I'd be excluded, and they thought I'd still pay. I checked my statements, not just Airbnb. The forensic accounting was coldly satisfying. Chloe had used my Netflix, my Spotify, my Amazon Prime, including several next day orders for hiking gear. None of it for me, none of it with me, but all on my tab. Then I saw it. A $780 charge to a ski rental store in Aspen. I'd never even been skiing. They used my login, my autofilled card, my identity. I screenshotted everything. Then I checked the family group chat from 2 years ago when Chloe begged me to help her consolidate her debt, just for 3 months. It had been 31 months, silence turned into sabotage. On Christmas night, I posted something. Not public, not yet. Just a close friend story with a screenshot of the refund confirmation and the caption. Turns out I wasn't as invisible as they thought. The digital ripple effect began. By the next morning, I had messages from people I hadn't heard from in years. Cousin Will, hey man, I had no idea they didn't invite you. That's messed up. I only came because they said you couldn't make it. The narrative was already cracking. Aunt Brenda, you were paying for all of this? I thought your mom and dad covered the house. Chloe shocked. But the real gold came from Jake, Chloe's boyfriend, the tag-along prince. He texted me, nervous at first. Then he wrote, dude, I didn't know about any of this. I thought you were just staying back for work. Chloe said you volunteered to cover the Airbnb. Then she said you didn't like being around people anymore, that you were fragile. Fragile. The same word dad had used last year after I told him I was burned out from work. Fragile boys don't last long in real life. What Jake revealed broke everything open. Jake called that evening, voice shaky. He told me everything. Chloe had been planning the perfect family trip since October. Her words, not mine. She called it her Christmas rebrand. New vibe, new family structure. No drama, which apparently meant no me. She told Jake she'd handle the Airbnb. Then she let it slip to mom that I had volunteered to cover it. She never told anyone I was coming, never added me to the travel doc, never invited me to any of the planning Zooms. She said you just get in the way, Jake whispered, his voice thin with discomfort, that you ruined the mood. He told me he tried to push back, said I should be included, and Chloe told him, don't worry, he's used to being left out, he won't even notice. I hung up without saying a word. The evidence folder begins that night. I started a new folder. I named it Used. Screenshots, emails, Chloe's Instagram stories, the Amazon invoices, the Airbnb charges, old messages where they told me I was part of the family, but always somehow the last to know, the first to pay. Then I opened a new tab, typed 12,500 Airbnb chargeback plus misleading claim, and began my next step. They thought I was gone, that I'd sulk in silence like I always did, that I'd retreat to my little apartment with my half-finished puzzles and unspoken grudges and let them celebrate without interruption. They were wrong. Because while they were hiking through snow trails and smiling for photos and coordinated flannels, I was already 10 steps ahead, and I knew where they were. How? Because Chloe, brilliant strategist that she is, had forgotten that my Spotify account was still logged into her phone. She'd been using my premium for months. No ads, unlimited skips, but more importantly, it showed me her GPS pin. I watched her move across the map in real time, the cabin, the store, the trails, and then the Christmas dinner reservation. 7 p.m., Mountain Hearth Lodge, Aspen Room. I booked a table. Same lodge, 1 hour earlier. The reservation was under my real name for a table of 1. A small, polite act of invasion. I packed my laptop. The folder marked Used. A printed stack of every transaction from my card and my phone. With the screenshots queued up, I threw on a suit I hadn't worn since my last job interview and drove up the mountain in silence. Just me, the engine, and the fury. The 6-hour drive was the longest period of uninterrupted clarity I'd ever experienced. The snow-dusted peaks, the crisp, cold air, the silence in the car, it was all a stark contrast to the boiling chaos in my chest. I felt like a prosecutor gathering final evidence before a landmark trial. My family was not just a collection of individuals, they were a corporate entity of manipulation, and I was filing for dissolution. 7 p.m., the Aspen Room. They were already seated when I arrived, 4 tables pushed together in a desperate attempt to look cozy. 17 people, the real family. My seat, of course, was empty. I watched from across the room for a moment. Mom was smiling nervously, clearly still reeling from the Airbnb cancellation, but trying to maintain the facade of a festive mother. Dad was pouring wine like a senator. A performance of control he hadn't actually held in days. Chloe was scrolling through her phone, probably checking how many likes her blessed Christmas post had racked up, oblivious to the fact that her phone was about to become the murder weapon in my truth-telling. Jake looked utterly miserable, a pariah even among his new chosen family. Then I walked over, dead quiet. Forks froze midair. The only sound was the muffled jazz from the speaker system. I started, someone, I think it was Aunt Amy, muttered, the word hanging in the air like a curse. Oh no. Hey everyone, I said cheerfully, my voice perfectly pitched to cut through the hum of the room without being loud. I heard we were doing Christmas dinner. No one spoke. Then Chloe, recovering first, the narcissist always prioritizing the script. This is not your reservation. I smiled. Actually, it is. You're sitting under my name, the one that paid for the lodge package. Check the receipt. Dad stood up, his face a sudden mask of scarlet rage. You're making a scene. No, I said, keeping my posture relaxed, almost bored. I'm making a point. I pulled out my laptop, opened the folder, and turned the screen toward the table. The sheer volume of evidence was overwhelming. Let's take a look, I said, the moment it all fell apart. First, the Airbnb invoice. My name, my card, $12,500. Then the refund confirmation, time-stamped. Then the text from Chloe. He's really not here. OMG, our plan worked. The simple digital proof was undeniable. Chloe tried to speak, her mouth opening and closing like a fish. I held up my hand, silencing her. Then we have the Amazon orders, hiking gear, ski boots, Chloe's new parka, all on my Prime. Next, Netflix, Spotify, Uber, all me. I walked around the table slowly, showing the screen to Aunt Brenda, Uncle Will, letting the facts sink in. I turned to my parents. Here's your grocery delivery receipts, the ones you said came from your pension. That's funny. This card says otherwise. Then I pulled out the final sheet, a single printed screenshot. It was Chloe's private story. He's finally out. Can't believe it took this long. Dead silence. Mom looked like she'd swallowed glass. Her composure had shattered. Dad clenched his jaw so tight I thought he might crack a tooth. Jake, the quiet observer who had given me the final piece of the puzzle, stood up slowly, cleared his throat, and said, yeah, I'm done. Chloe turned. What? You're seriously? He held up a hand. I tried to give you the benefit of the doubt, but this is cruel. You used him, lied to all of us. And for what? A photo op? She stammered, her voice shaking now. You don't understand. I understand enough, he snapped, his own betrayal finally bubbling over. I'm not staying another night in that cabin. You people are impossible. The family fracture was instantaneous. Aunt Brenda whispered something to Mom, not of comfort, but of accusation. Uncle Will said out loud, I didn't know you were paying for all this, man. I thought you just didn't want to come. The narrative of my unsociable nature was crumbling. Dad finally exploded, his voice a roaring, desperate attempt to reclaim control. This is exactly why we didn't invite you. You always act like a victim, always trying to make people feel guilty. I stepped closer, my voice dropping back to that icy calm. No, I said. I act like someone who's tired of paying for the privilege of being ignored. Then I pulled out the final thing, a portable speaker. I hit play. Chloe's voice filled the room, magnified, echoing off the high ceilings and festive decorations. Don't worry, he's used to being left out. He won't even notice. It was her, clear as glass. A voice memo from a month ago, sent to Jake, saved automatically in the chat. Chloe lunged forward. Turn it off! I turned it up. Mom stood up. Please, we can talk about this. No, I said. Talking time is over. Then I pulled out a single card. Business card size, simple serif font. It read, this dinner was paid for by the one you left behind. Bon appetit. I placed it in the center of the table, closed my laptop, and walked out. The finality of the click of the laptop lid and the soft placement of the card was my period on their sentence. Behind me, I heard chair scrape, a plate clatter, someone muttering, Jesus Christ. The sound of their perfect holiday disintegrating was the only music I needed. Outside, the snow had just started to fall, soft cleansing flakes covering the cruel, hard ground. By the time I got back to the city, my story was already echoing through the cracks. Jake had driven straight home after the dinner and made a short but powerful post. Sometimes you find out too late that the people closest to you are capable of orchestrating cruelty like it's a holiday plan. He didn't name anyone, he didn't have to. People connected the dots fast. I went public the next morning. I posted a thread. No dramatic caption, just this. They left for the big family trip, 4 cars, 17 people, and 1 group chat. Without me, I woke up alone in the house I paid for. 2 hours later, I got a message meant for someone else. He's really not here. OMG, our plan worked. So I canceled the $12,500 booking, and then I pressed play on the truth. Underneath, screenshots of transactions, the voice memo, the messages, the lodge receipt, and my final dinner table photo. 17 people frozen in silence while I walked away. It blew up. The post went global. Thousands of likes, retweets, comments, DMs. People shared their own stories. The sibling who